That sucker hit 350.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Accidentally, you know. I just happen to have the thermometer in it, you know.
Rob, did you want to just stroll around to point some of the stuff out that you got, or?
Yeah, sure. And
Where were you gonna set it, Rob?
oh no, I don't know. Just
Anywhere?
Yeah, and you're like with these already here, right? Maybe in between there and the front ball. Yeah, that would be perfect. Cause then. This giraffe collector there. Parabolic, a microwave, Tulsi. There's some hybrid cookers here. Crock pots. Yeah.
else like this.
Yeah.
How's it? How you feeling about it? You feeling good? Yeah.
Looks good to me. I can
Cool.
see it. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm Robert Crosland. I'm currently an officer with Solar Guild and Citizens for Solar, and I am working with Southwest Solar. The first two are nonprofits here in Arizona, or one's fed and one's state. Been with both groups probably for about 10-15 years. The Citizens for Solar, we have a annual potluck at Catalina State Park where we feed between 20 and 100 people or more, and it's our mandatory camp for 3 days, and so it's like a lot of fun. We've done some work for Catalina State Park where we put in many standalone systems on their camping areas and patios and such, and in return we get to have a giant group area for free, and they love us. We are like the second biggest group, I guess, that shows up to that park. The Cub Scouts, I think, eat out or something like that for a little jamboree that they do.
Sure.
The other nonprofit, if I could speak on it a little bit, came out of Pima Community College. I was teaching photovoltaics in their basic and advanced class. The labs that they had were pretty small and unrealistic. I mean, the science was there, but the hands-on experience was missing. I contacted some friends of mine that worked in the field, and nobody was going to get allowed to be on a roof, and so we created a nonprofit with the students, or actually one of the students that helped us create, and we've done some magic. And Pat will touch on some of the projects that we do for them. And then we're currently courting a company out of California that we might be building modules here at Tucson. They have a company, and they have the grant writers, and they know how to get the money. And what they do is we'll look for a warehouse on a maybe poor side of town. Excuse saying that part, but and then the first modules go on the people that need it the most, as opposed to the people off of golf courses. Nothing against golf courses, but it always seemed to me that the people that needed solar the most were the people in the barrio, or the ghetto, or where it's abuela, it's a grandma, just trying to make it on her fixed income, and the bills aren't getting any cheaper. In fact, I worked on a big solar site for our company here in town, the electrical company that supplies the power, and we built a giant system on the edge of town, which fulfilled their demands, the ACC's demands for alternative energy. And once that happened, any type of help or breaks from our power company disappeared, because feel no longer needed to put it on rooftops. And so it's sort of been a little battle with photovoltaics here in Tucson. But the thing is, I mean, we have 370 days a year of sun, and even though when it's hot like this, they're not as efficient. They certainly are making power, and I don't really understand why power companies aren't pivoting to maybe smart grids or alternative ways to take care of their shareholders. It just seems like they want to use oil and coal and whatever right to the very end. But a magic thing happened a couple of years back. Like it sounds like photovoltaics and power from coal or oil are the same price, and so things are changing a little bit. It's pretty cool to see. So these are sunflowers. All right, so I got to tell you a story. What got me in the solar was I met this sweet old couple at there's a housing development not too far from here, and it's as sustainable as sustainable as you get in a desert. Housing development. They were really conscious on stuff that they were building, and I met this sweet old couple that was they were making cookies, and that was Toby and Vivian, and they were just a real hoot. And then the speaker was Gabrielle Giffords at that event, and after she did her little talk, I just my heart fluttered. I was totally swooned. I hope this isn't too creepy, but I kind of fell in love with her. She was amazing, and she was really pro solar, and she was real active here in Tucson, and I invited her to our union meeting. She attended the electrical union. 570. She came by and did a little talk over there, and of course recognized me, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. So yeah, it was Toby and Vivian that I saw those ovens, and I was pretty amazed. I'd never seen that before. I was just doing a little bit of volunteer work. I was staying pretty busy, but when I saw that, it was a catalyst. And if you guys don't know what a catalyst is, it's when you just take some real basic ingredients and the combination of those causes a reaction. And my reaction was in all kinds of directions. It was building these out of these are obviously like crock pots, and they work amazingly well. They're self-trackers. I cut the cord off the very first one, and all the old timers gave me the what for. So the cords stay on. They're now hybrids. If the sun clouds up, we usually have somebody at that event, or there's a way to usually get some power from TEP. But so yeah, that, and then I had to put these little turns on them, because these things. I just imagine the kiddos getting their eyes poked out, and it was a sunflower, but it might be more like an agave,
Sure.
which is kind of more fitting, and they're not hard to look at, when they're sitting there not cooking. It's something else than a box. But the catalyst was not just solar cooking, but ended up working for a solar company, mostly just to so I could walk the walk, and we helped create a alternative energy class within the union, which they didn't really understand why we needed one. And wow, within a year, we were building some systems up in a place where they wanted to do some mining, which ironically enough, I would go to a union meeting one day, and I would go to a anti-mine meeting the same week, and learn about these people that would buy one share so they can get thrown out of a shareholders meeting, which of course inspired me more. And then I found a group called the Cactus and Succulent Society, and really got into succulents. I found a group called Organic Gardeners and began organic gardening in a very fierce way. You know, aerated compost tea and you know, all natural stuff. Water harvesting. Again, I'm such a cheapskate. My water harvesters are these like commercial barrels that hold, you know, different materials. Mine were found out on a job site, and they were rinsed out from a painter, but he didn't want to take them back to Phoenix, and I ended up getting about 900 gallons of potential water storage for a couple 18 packs on ice. And he was really happy, and I was stoked dragging these things home. I think I was taking them home in a convertible at the time. People were looking at me, but yeah, just blow and go. Just got them up in the air a little bit, and it's not a huge amount of water, but it's pretty. If I use it right, it's pretty close to the rainfall that we get here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was going to point out there's this trough over here, and I want to mention the trough because I had a really good friend, is Jerry Samaniego. His kiddos would they had a piece of wire that ran through that, and then his kids would cook hot dogs for the other kids and people. So his kids were like super involved, and then he also, you know, he worked as an officer, and his wife actually was with me on that board for a little while, and just really amazing people. He ended up going to Oregon, where he was running for he's been trying to run for like local leadership there, and he's about him, and you know, Bill Cunningham and are some pretty amazingly sharp people. I look for Bill Cunningham in another video, perhaps.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that dude's. Yeah, we would get Bill Cunningham. We would invite him out to, you know, like the Children's Museum, and he would set up a solar panel, and he brought a keyboard, and he would play music right off the solar, and he's such a hoot. And then Mrs. Samaniego, she was going for some architecture class at the U of A, in which she was. Her thesis was a pirate ship in her backyard that was solar powered, and they had some steps going up to the top, and they loved it. They ate it up. And then she made a design of a house where they use natural materials, and you know, you would build a big pile of dirt, say with your skid steer, and then cover it with concrete, you know, and some rebar, and then make some entrances, and you dig that out, and you had like practically an underground home, you know, and throw some of those lightweight lava rocks on top. It just got donated to my son's school, and it is now a tortoise habitat. They are totally thrilled.
Well, nice. Pat. Yeah.
I'll get a couple words in.
Your side of the story.
Most of my information is more statistic, and so I'm the outgoing chair for the Solar Guild Citizens for Solar. And again, the way it got started was classes for me 2009, 2010, where Rob was an adjunct professor at, and Chen Wei Hong was our professor of the Solar 101, and
Awesome.
Zara Hong was our professor for Solar 102 Advanced. And we got to meet Deanna Lewis, who was doing a project, pilot project for students, and we got introduced to her and started having meetings after our classes, and I have about 25 names.
I want to add that Deanna Lewis was a troublemaking student. Like, she didn't show up for many classes, and I was like, God, you know, like, what's up with this gal? And as she turns out, she was the biggest juggernaut of us all. You know, like, she's been working with Doctors Without Borders. She actually came as a leader on. She was the head of a fire department in the town that she lived in, and then she was working with the the guy that builds mirrors out here at the U of A for all of the telescopes, and got like U of A involved in a lot of this stuff. She was amazing. But, yeah,
So they were the beginning board members, and originally we all were putting some money in to get things going, to get the letters that had to be taken care of through the newspapers and such, to get the articles of incorporation and such. So she helped us out a great deal, getting us going and starting demonstrations. We had a very big project at the Biosphere 2 that we had all our members, along with some of the high school classes from around Tucson, the science classes that helped out immensely. And did some things with the Girl Scouts that were actually came out door one time and found them cutting steel. Worried me a little bit. He seemed to worry Rob. And they were doing a 300 watt system, and best part I had of that is when I came into the back room of the school, and the students, these 13 and 14-year-old Girl Scouts, were on the whiteboard showing the neighborhood exactly how the system is working for the non-grid tied system that they built. So the Girl Scouts were involved with them.
they were foster care
all
too.
foster
Like,
care. From Yuma. Yes.
yeah, from Yuma, which is
It was a great project. And that was our first real, doing of anything. We did a 500 watt project with the Goodwill Good Futures folks, and that was a tremendous one. And then getting out and doing the demonstrations is always big. Probably the biggest one that we have is at STEM, out at the Northwest campus of Pima Community College, and we actually cook up about 1,100 cookies for the students and the teachers that are there. It's always the Friday, the week before Thanksgiving, so it's at a time when people are just starting to get so busy they wouldn't be able to do anything else, but this place is just packed with that, and a lot of the scientifically based companies from around Tucson show up for that.
cookies is how I got cooked. They work.
That's right.
So the articles of incorporation and things that were getting done in the beginning, I just was talking with Rob on the phone about why we never became a 501c3 at that time, and come to find out that cost $400, and we were able to do a nonprofit with the state of Arizona, which we were able to take care of a lot of things. And then the Citizens for Solar is a 501c3, so we could use that part of the group to get the donations done so they could get their letters and have their taxes reduced. Things around Tucson that we like to get always to the Earth Day, the Sustainable Tucson, Biosphere 2, Valley of the Moon. They used to have a thing called Solar Rocket. It was just great that, I can't remember exactly how that ended up not being around anymore, but that was a terrific thing. And then the Solar Potluck, like Rob said, that's how we really got our initial membership going along and going, having our sign-up sheets at that, and then talking to the Solar 101 and the Solar 102 advanced classes. A lot of our membership came from that, people that wanted to get the hands-on knowledge of installing solar. And that led to the solar cooking while we were doing the building and all that.
Any group that has any kind of value is come from the ground up. As far as our elected officials or whatever, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of politics, like anything, like that. All change has been affected on the street, and that's the only way. It seems like the only way to do it. I mean, I don't miss a vote. I always vote, but I think you really touch some more people when you're out there beating the street.
One other thing along the lines about helping with the crime problem is one of our very first 3 projects were down on 4th Avenue, checking the areas, the crime rates in certain areas of the alleyways and things that weren't lit up. We actually weren't able to do it because of some of the laws they had in place at the time, but our game plan was, and we presented it, to be able to light up all those alleyways so they wouldn't have the dark alleyways. Before we get too further, there's a couple more names I really do want to mention because they've been so big in the programs. And John Heiserman, who I hope will get a chance to do some interviews with him today. He was the chair before myself, I believe.
He's our secretary. He's our secretary and web guru.
Yes, he does some of our web stuff, and he's up in Eugene, Oregon now, and I call him to get some of the mailings and things out. So he's great on everything that he helps him. Patrick Cobb was always another great one that was on the board to help and be there and raising his hand every time something needed to be done. He's been living out of state, I think in Utah, for the last part of his work. You see the other, Brian Smith, Dave Heimers, Catherine Longoria, Eric Gellers, Paul Kemp, some of these people, Skip Moan, Chen Wei Han, who again, he's been so big in all this and directing us towards companies that were affiliated with solar, and again, always leads to projects where we have both the solar and the cooking all together in one project. And when you do that, and you got the other high schools and things near you, they're coming to you, and then they want you to come to their school. So it's grown just leaps and bounds from that sort of information.
Sure. Well, great. You mentioned Eugene, Oregon. Is Bruce Joseph? Is he still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's who I.
No, John Heisman.
No, John Heisman is here. Bruce Joseph is up in Eugene.
Okay. Okay. Well, what would be cool is if we get shots when you talk about these. This is just, these are crock pots that are hybrid, right? So you can plug them in if you want. Yeah. And then the trough. What is the story behind that?
The story behind that was it was a way of getting kids fed and kids like presenting and cooking with solar. They would set that up at our event, and there would be like 12 hot dogs on it, and they're a little Turner, you know. Of course, they, you know, the mom and dad, they were pretty much like helping run the show, and so his kids were very involved. And then my son became very involved. He had missed an event since he was at an event at 2 weeks.
Okay.
He didn't miss an event since then. As far as I know, it's the second oldest continuous running like solar anything. I think there was a group that talked about photovoltaics. They might have been out of El Paso or something. They have us by maybe a year or something like that. These old timers, something about this place, like, I don't know, they were building solar thermal stuff. They were building their own solar ovens. There was no such thing as purchasing these things. I gotta tell you a real fast story about. I went to a meeting. There was a class, and it was this fellow out in New Mexico, and he's the one that helps write all the code for photovoltaics in the code book, you know, like, and so he was talking about that too, and he mentioned that in certain places they really like to have these solar panels because they could run water pumps to take care of maybe some illicit harvesting that they were doing in that part of California at the time. And he said that he was sitting at this small general store, and they call it the Triangle. I forget the counties, and he saw this fellow roll up and skid out sideways, you know, in the parking lot, and he ran out to the guy and he goes, I need a pump right now. And the guy says, no way. He says, I would have to go to San Francisco. It's gonna be like 2 hours. You know, I don't have that stuff. It's closing time anyway. And he said this guy just started putting out $100 bills. And then he said when he got to about 8 of them, the guy says, I'll be back in 4 hours. So strangely enough, you know, I mean, those guys found a way to utilize it, but there were a lot of people that, you know, that for once, you know, like early on, the photovoltaics were specifically for space programs or you know, communication, maybe, you know, like Army and stuff, or where you're out where you can't, you know, or taking care of medicine in really odd, you know, places and stuff like that. And they were like incredibly expensive. And the next thing you know, all of these guys are messing around with their own like solar things, and so that was the big catalyst. Sometimes the pendulum swings back, but we move forward every time, you know. And these were really special because you know, it's a flower, and so people would come over, like like little bees and stuff, and then you were able to talk up, you know, solar in different ways. But as it turns out, you know, like, again, like I could not afford, like, nor would I, you know, budget a $300, you know, box that most people were using, and I knew I wanted to build one, and so I'm really happy that you're here, because I would strongly encourage, they're so simple, I would strongly encourage anybody to try it. You know, I certainly don't have any qualms with, like, you know, spreading that love.
Sure.
The 275, you know, out the door, and then if you put them in the right pot, sometimes I'll put them in a plant pot, and I'll hit like 350s on them, you know, in summer.
Sure.
You know,
And that's
in winter,
that's before, without having to plug it in.
yeah,
Plug it in,
no,
it's just
yeah,
the
not
nozzle over
plugging
it.
it in, yeah, and it's about the same temperature plugged in, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And what's really nice is, like, because of the different angles, it sort of acts like a concentrator. It sort of acts like a tracker, you know. And these things kind of, you know, I didn't really think it through. I just knew I had this stuff to build with. Even the screws came from the job site, you know, some self-tappers and stuff that were laying on the floor from the framing guys, like, and yeah, no, this type of, you know, if you get a good seal on it, the food is like incredibly moist. Meats, like, yeah, they're no problem, you know, 40 minutes or less, like, for anything. Grains are a little bit harder, you know, like rice and stuff, but, you know, if I could just sit this out and, like, throw the fishing pole, it's not gonna get burnt. It's gonna get more tender, and then I come back when I'm all hungry and tired, and dinner's ready. You know, so that's a real goof.
Yeah.
And then these things are at your local, you know, like Goodwills
yeah.
and stuff like that, especially if they're a little bit dinged up or whatever. You know, Mom doesn't want it anymore because it kind of looks funky.
Our test at home is always rice and beans. Joe grew up in Latin America. Rice and beans, a little garlic, a little cumin, and how fast will a cooker take care of that?
Beans are so important. They're almost, you know, you can find some version of them all over the world.
Yeah.
They're often high, you know, they're high protein and stuff in places, you know, where they have limited, you know, meat. You know, like maybe they might have something out there, but it's the milk. You know, they're making cheese or they're getting milk. They're not gonna like cook up their goats or cattle or anything like that.
Sure.
And so yeah, no, that's brilliant. Like beans, and you know who doesn't love beans and chili.
Yeah.
Al Nichols he'd always have his 5 pounds of 5 gallons of beans, and then he'd have a secret stash off to the side, which was, you know, that was the test to see how much heat we could take.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I'm thinking of just the last thing then of the trough. What have you used that for? It looks almost like it was set up for heating water, but did you cook with it or anything?
Yeah, so, you know, originally these things were designed as pull heaters. There was a system that they were tracking. There would be about 8 of these, 8 or 10 of these things, like sitting on the sides of pools. And pools are really expensive, you know, to heat and stuff like that. And then these kids, they just had a piece of seismic wire going through it, you know, it was a really stiff thing that could hold some hot dogs.
Yeah.
And yeah, they would have like hot dogs coming out of that thing. And yeah, that was the San Diegos that ended up over here. I helped them move and stuff, and some other like pretty neat rare things from that family. What's neat about solar cooking is oftentimes that'll be the catalyst. You know, like somebody will, you know, do this, and then, you know, then they're joining that, and then the next thing you know, they're building this, and they're affecting some change, you know, like from the ground up, which is where change comes from. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
I don't.
This is fantastic. We squeezed in enough time.
Luther, I know that you're.
Oh, even more.
So I get home,
I know that you're
and this is in my mailbox.
Yep.
Oh,
So I
just in
turned
time.
around and came back. You're gonna need that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I didn't want to have to mail it.
Now we got the complete cooker
See it twice.
and parts in my car. I'll just make sure I don't go over any really big bumps.
Luther, I know you're in a hurry with Hurricane Hillary bearing down upon us, but John's here, and I think we'd like to have John say a few words.
Sure. Yeah.
This is Amber Gaia. I'm not sure, Amber, did you want to have any?
Meet you. I'm Luther Kruger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Have a seat or
welcome.
put you in the screen. Thanks.
I don't know what I was watching, and then something solar ovens, and before I knew it, I saw one of our board members, getting interviewed, Skip Mullen,
Yeah.
on the
must have been me.
YouTube channel. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I didn't know that you had been in contact with Pat and
Yeah.
everybody up in that point. And then in the background, I saw Toby's Death Ray pig cooker, and it was amazing. And then of course, just naturally, I'm like, who's this guy? And I stumbled, went right into your channel and subscribed, and then pretty much watched every video you made. I didn't know, and I like the way you use the word pilgrimage and everything, because someone's got to do this. Everybody's passing away, like, rapidly, and like I watched just like this. I watched the video with you meeting that lady with the Sam Irwin oven,
Janie McDonald.
like, next, and then I'm like, wow, that whole, she's got everything, all his plans and everything. It's like somebody's got to keep this stuff going, because once it's gone, it's gone. And I was like, yeah, when I saw you buy one of the prototypes from the actual die, and it was so like overwhelming, just to see somebody going around the country interviewing. I ended up buying a Sam Irwin oven from Florida a few weeks ago.
did. Great. The
Yeah.
Solar Chef.
$300.
Yeah, thanks.
And it's, I was gonna bring it, but I had a couple guys bring it here from Florida for $200. They fit it into their truck
Okay.
and got it here, but the glass panels are the silicone or whatever used is falling out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's great. It's in my backyard, and I just really appreciate the fact that you're doing this. 'Cause
Thank you.
It's I don't know if you got a chance to watch any of his videos, but
I
like,
did.
A
It's like-
variety
yeah, it's just,
ovens too,
Yeah.
like in your yard.
and I like your 3 questions, and I don't know what I'm gonna say. I'm a fan, and
Thank
here
you.
you just like you're standing here in Rob's backyard. It's just like surreal.
He's
almost.
bigger than that
And-
little
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it's cool. I don't know how I got into solar, but my back went out, so I ended up laying in bed. Like, this is probably like 12 years ago, and I stumbled into like clean energy and solar panels and all that stuff. And then before I know it, I was taking a class at Pima, and for the basic and advanced solar design class, and that's where I ran into this group. And sure enough, and then there was ties in with, I didn't even know we were having an annual solar potluck for the last 40 years here in Catalina State Park. So
Catalina State Park, we used ammo boxes to hold all of the electronics, and I really relished that because they held bullets before, and now it holds electrons.
Yeah.
Battery and wires.
by watching your videos, I didn't even know that company had been around that long, let alone they made a big one at one point. And holy cow. And that lady where I first saw it was that interview of that lady in California that had that, the solar food truck.
Yes.
I thought she was really cool. And no, she had one. And it just, at first I thought she was a little kooky. And then I was like, no, she's like, and then before you know it, she actually owns a restaurant and all that. Because sometimes, you don't know about some, but no, she was like, wow, she's like, she had the calling, I guess you could say, in big time. And it, but no, it was great. And thanks for doing this. I don't know how to thank you enough, because there's no one else doing it. And I didn't even know that website Fandom exists or any of that stuff. But so it's kind of inspirational, like the the Solar Guild and the Citizens for Solar kind of got merged together probably about 5 years ago.
Sure.
And it was like the old timers of the Citizens for Solar, like, just basically got to that board meeting and passed the baton to us. And I'm like, boy. Now it's in our lap now, and we didn't want it. We barely pulled one off this year, but it was our first one back from the hiatus, and a good amount of quality.
Solar potluck.
Yeah, in April. Yeah, and a good amount of people made it out there, but a lot of thought has. We've been bouncing around the ideas about continuing to call it a potluck, because that kind of is not a well.
Sounds church basementy.
Well,
Right.
well, I manage apartments, and we stopped doing, for just kind of health reasons or safety reasons. Probably about 10 years ago was our last potluck in an apartment complex, because the food's coming from different people's kitchens, and yeah, so we're trying to figure out a new name for it, and then reinvent it and make it more of a competition. And one of our board members, well, we had talked about a chili cook-off and get the fire department involved and all that, because they seem to be in that stuff. But give everybody 1 square meter and watch what they can do with it. Is and maybe invite some people from the U of A and Pima, and make it more into where some actual innovation. You get to see some new stuff coming out, and it's like I don't know, it's a competition, and then it'll help, oh wow, look what those kids did there, and then it'll be it'll feed on itself, and,
Sure.
and the solar ovens will get more and more high tech, and so that's where hopefully where we can take the solar potluck
Sure.
into the future is more in have a lot more people out there,
Yeah.
and have it, an actual large prize and all that stuff. And then the Citizens for Solar, I ran across this French website. It's called Solar Brother.
Yeah, manufacturers.
okay.
They make a bunch of cookers,
And
yeah.
I like what they're doing. They've got some solar ovens for sale, but they've also got plans on how to build them right there on their site.
Are they the ones with the light fire, or is that another?
They've got a dehydrator, the little lighter that's a parabolic
yeah.
little lighter, and then they make that cool yellow parabolic dish, and you can buy it all there. And I don't think they're a nonprofit. I don't know. I don't even know if they have nonprofits over there. But I was like, what we've been doing to support the group all these years is buying little solar toys through eBay and having them there as fundraisers, or we'll do T-shirts. But we want to kind of separate or give Citizens for Solar its own website again, and do something like Solar Brother. There's all these organizations like Habistore and all these where Habitat for Humanity, where we could be they'll build the house and we come in and do a solar system and do neat things around town here for the city, or little cooling artwork things where people can stand under them and get cool off and all that stuff.
Robert Bulacek has been our treasurer for Citizens.
Go for it. Sorry.
Can't even remember how long it's been that long. Although I was not one of the originals, I got recruited by Vivian Hart to participate, and I've been selling T-shirts ever since.
Sure.
Citizens for Solar is a nonprofit, and instead of solar toys, we might as well move into solar ovens as a fundraiser.
Yeah, I'd love to have a collapsible cooker. I've got a sun oven, and it's just bulky.
Love it.
Well, thanks so much. This has been excellent. And next, I'll be around. Like I say, I retired in May, and I've got relatives in Albuquerque and in San Francisco and San Diego.
Great.
So you're on my path. Either way, we will be back.
Snow where you're